Awesome. I will put it in slide mode. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome Angela and the rest that have just joined us. So today we are going to do advanced JOSM. We're going to learn, the objectives. Just a minute, let me just reduce this. Give me a minute. Okay. Awesome. So the objectives of this session today is you're going to learn how to use JOSM to map tricky buildings, roads, and waterways. And then we're also going to learn how to apply filters when mapping and how to resolve conflicts in JOSM. So again, the agenda: advanced buildings, waterways, roads, waterway crossings, feature history, filters and selections, conflicts and multi-polygons and relations. So you all know what buildings with courtyards are, or buildings that have holes in them, or multi-polygons. So they're very common in India, like one of the projects we've been working on. I'm going to illustrate that when you move on. So you map out the outer side, map out the inner side, whatever you select to start with, it doesn't matter. And then you shift Control B to make it a multi-polygon. And then for those that were in the earlier session, I just gave you a brief to understand what it means to have a multi-polygon. Yeah. So another thing I'm going to illustrate is how to use the Extrude tool. We learned it last week, but I'll do it again. The Extrude tool helps us to map buildings that have extensions, and it like makes the mapping really quite faster, because you don't have like to overlap buildings, to shift J and then you delete. So it really faster. Another thing we're going to talk about is how to fix buildings, how to adjust buildings and make them look much better. And then I'm also going to show you how to map buildings in dense areas, and how to map tall buildings. So when we are mapping tall buildings, I will illustrate that as well. Usually they are, you see like the lengths, how do I call that? Yeah, the buildings are quite tall and long. So remember, when you're mapping in OSM, we do not map the roof, we map the building footprints. So when you're mapping tall buildings, the building footprint is on the spot where the wall, like here, where the wall meets the ground. For instance, here, as you can see on the GIF. So what we usually do, we map up the roof as you have seen, and then we drag it to the spot or the corner where the wall meets the ground, as you can see here in the GIF. I will illustrate that as well. So I'm going to first to go to JOSM and illustrate those the stuff that we have been talking about. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please type in the chat. Let me just go to JOSM. I'm going to use the same project. Let me see. Okay, hope my JOSM is open. All right. Okay, my internet seems to be slow. Hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So number one, we are going to learn how to map buildings with courtyards. This internet, don't disgrace me. I'm just panning around just to see if my internet. Let me add Maxa imagery, see if it will work. Okay, nice. So this looks like a multi-polygon here. It has like a hole in between. Let's look for a perfect example. This one. So For those that did not attend the first session, I'm going to illustrate to you and explain to you what it means to have a multi-polygon. So those days, we would map it like this. So you get your line tool, just map it around, and then you hit Q to square. Remember, you're using your line tool and it's not tagged. So you don't tag it, you leave it as it is. And then you get the line tool, you map the inner part as well. And then you press Q to square it. So I'm just going to adjust it a bit. So I'm selecting the inner, rather the outer and the inner. Hold my control key, select the other, and then I will come to relations here, and I'll click on add relation. Just a minute. Okay, the plus is the add relation. So all I know, the type of building is a multi-polygon. So I'll type in type multi-polygon, and then I'll come and add the plus, or relatively just press enter, and it will bring for me the next row. So I'm going to type in, I know it's a building equals yes. And then I will click on this arrow to bring these, to bring these two, inner and the outer, these two that are mapped inside here, so that I can tag them. So if you can concentrate on my interface, the JOSM interface. So you see when I click here, the outer one highlights itself. When I click, the inner one highlights itself. So I'm going to just type in here outer, or you can just click on the tick here, and then I type in inner. So that's what it means. So when I, and then I'll say, okay. So I want you to look at my tags and membership. So when I click on the outer one, it's telling me this building is a multi-polygon building. It has 2 members, and it's the one that I've selected, it's in the outer row, and it's in the second position. So when I click here, it's also telling me this building, it's the same building, but it has 2 members. It's the inner part of the building, and it's the first position. So that's what it means to have a multi-polygon. So when you select it as one, it will select, this is what they call a multi-polygon. So that's what it means. So, but with JOSM developing, we have like a simpler way on how to map that. Actually, let me look for another one. So I'm going to map this out. So what I will do, I will map out the first session. I'll get a chance to actually explain the Extrude tool. So I'll select my Extrude tool, click on one corner here and drag. I'll click on this other corner and drag. I've mapped out my my outside part. You use the building tool, remember this time. Then you get the building tool still, click inside and click map out the different inner parts. So I will, just a minute, I just want to adjust this. I'll illustrate that later. So what I do, I hold my control, select one, hold my control key and select all the other parts. And then I'll say Control B. So what Control B does, it creates a multi-polygon for me. As you can see here, I've selected the outer one, and it's telling me that it is a multi-polygon building. It has 3 members, and the one that I've selected is the one on the 3rd position. So the same here, it has 3 members, sorry. It's the second one, and then this is the 3rd one, as you can see, the one in the 1st position, rather. So that's how they create multi-polygons. If you have any questions, you can let me know. And then, just in case you forget the shortcut form, you come to your tools, and then you find it down here, create multi-polygon. If you forget the Control B, you come here, you map out. Let me just get another one just to illustrate. If I want to add a courtyard, how do I do it? Now I'm looking out for another one. The courtyard is that hole that you can see. Let's see if I can get another one. Okay. So this looks actually as one, that it's not that clear. I want to get a very good example to use. Just a minute. Okay. Awesome. Maybe just one more thing. If you are not asking any questions, please just keep your mic mute so that we can have a smooth. Okay, I'm looking for another clear mount polygon to illustrate. Okay. So I'll just use this because it looks, actually this, no. Let me just use this. So you get your building tool, you map out the outer side, then you map out the inner side using the building tool. And then you are going to select it, hold your control key down, select the other, and then you come to tools and you say, create mount polygon, which is the same as control P, and you've created your mount polygon. So that's how they create mount polygon. Another thing that I've already illustrated, I'm just going to do a repeat, is how to use the Extrude tool. So Extrude tools can make mapping buildings with extensions or overlapping buildings quite very fast and easy. And another thing I use it for is when I'm adjusting buildings. For instance, if I want to fix this one, and it's not well sized, I can use my Extrude tool just to resize the corners, just like that. And when you're using the Extrude tool, you have to make sure the building is already squared. For instance, this is not squared, and if I want to adjust it and I try to move, I will get such stuff. But if I square it and I want to adjust the corners, just a minute, if I square it, as you can see, and I want to adjust the corners, it does it well the way I want it. So yeah, when you're adjusting already existing buildings, make sure they are already squared before using the Extrude tool, like just the way I have done it here. So just delete this extra node here, and I'll just that. So I'm going to get a building and I illustrate to you, for instance, this one. If I'm to map out, since it has this extension, if I'm to, in the long time, we would have to map it like this. Okay, just making sure that it's, we'd have to map it like this. You map two overlapping buildings and then you shift J and then you square. But with the Extrude tool there, you can just hold, click on one corner, click on the other, get the Extrude tool, double click on the side you want to drag, and then you drag it like that. So that's how you use the Extrude tool. So another thing I want to illustrate is how to fix buildings. I've already fixed one here. So let me just look up here. So I'll just move this rod aside, just aside, such doesn't, I don't snap it, and so I don't overlap it. So you fix building like this, can just hold long press and you move it the way you want. And then you use the Extrude tool to drag it like this. That's one way you can fix this building. Then you double click, you move. Otherwise, since it was small, you can also do it like this. I can resize it by just making it a bit bigger, and then I move it. If I want to make it smaller, I will press my Control Alt, and you see my cursor has changed, and I'll be able to resize it or make it smaller, you see? Or if it was bent, just like this, I will just hold Control Shift, and then I rotate it the way I want. So, and then I get my Extrude tool still that I use it the way I want, just like that. Then maybe if it has extra nodes, I'll go ahead and delete, and remember to square If it's for squaring, please remember to square. Otherwise, see what I've done. Because I did not square it first and I use my Extrude tool, it creates these nodes and they bring errors. So let me first square it, and then I use it. I will just delete these extra nodes. This is how we fix buildings. And yeah, so I'm going to look for another building to fix. Let me see if I can get any here. Like this one. Another thing, you see, someone has mapped this. It is building, yes, and the different several buildings, and someone mapped it as one. I can deal with this several times. If I wish, I can split this into different buildings. So I select one, select the other node, and then select one node, hold Control key down, then come on tools, more tools, and then say split object. So I can do this for all these different. So I'm just highlighting the nodes. Let me create one here. And I've created like different nodes, rather different buildings on just that one building. And I'll press select all of them by holding down my Control key, and then I press Q. So after pressing Q, I'll get my Extrude tool and then I separate them. Remember, we are always recommended to map buildings separately. And as you can see them here, they are all separately mapped. So this is one way I can fix rather than deleting it and mapping afresh, especially when it is tagged as building equals yes. So there's nothing to lose, no information, and I cannot I'm not deleting anything. I'm not deleting any information on that. So this is one way I can do that. As you can see now, I have modified or I have fixed the buildings here. That is number one. The other way I could fix it is just to, the other way I could fix it is to move this aside. Then I will map out one, just like that. And since it's just building, yes, I don't want to waste my time deleting nodes one by one. I'll just hold my Control key down, select this other one, and then I'll press Shift Control G. So when I do Shift Control G, it swallows up the other building and it combines it as one. So any information on that building is captured in the history of the building that I've created. So for instance, if I go ahead and upload this work, don't forget our hashtag again. So I'm just going to say I added and modified building. That's what I did. And then I go ahead and upload my work. So when I come and check the history of this object, you'll see that they're saying this person, this mapper created this building on this day at this time. And then me, I have modified it. I have modified it on this day, on this time. The information on this building is the same as the information. Let's see if I can, okay. All right, let's see. So that it's the same information on the building and it's the same. So I've not deleted anything. The history of the mapper is there. So they still own, or they've still worked on that same building. So that is how I could modify that. Then the other way is just deleting the several nodes, delete different nodes and just leave one building out of the other. So that's how you fix buildings. Let me just fix here. Now, for instance, you see here, they're different. So instead of deleting this, sometimes what I do is I just zoom in and just delete a small part. I don't do a lot, just a small part to have an overview of what I'm doing. So I'll not download it as new, I'll just add it as on my layer. So what I do, for instance, here, instead of deleting this, I'll just move it here and resize it. I'll move this one here, probably move this one here. Okay, let me get it here. Yeah. And then I will move the roads just by my JOSM is stuck. Let's wait and see. Okay, now it's good. So I'll just move this road away by holding the node. You don't move the entire road, you move objects and cause errors. So you just hold the node, just move it aside slightly. And then here I can rotate. I can rotate this and rotate, Control Shift up, and then I can resize it and adjust. So it makes really my work easy. So I can also fix this one actually here and move it here. So that's how I fix buildings. Instead of deleting, you move it to an area of a space where, remember, we are updating the map. Probably someone used it with an outdated imagery. It's okay. Unless usually we do offsets when like it's a huge, like the whole project is offsetted and it's like a correct thing. When you adjust them, all buildings align. But sometimes someone maps this area with Bing, the other one maps with Maxa, the other one maps with the Esri. So it's a bit of confusion. And even if you try to offset, they're not offsetted. So sometimes we just advise you to move carefully, don't move the roads, move the buildings carefully, align them to the correct imagery, because aligning them is as well, it's the same as updating the map to the updated imagery. So that's what I do sometimes. So another thing I'm going to illustrate is how to map on dense area. I can see this place is quite dense. So again, I'm moving the road slightly away just to align it on the road by holding the nodes, moving the nodes. I'm not moving the building like this. So I just move the nodes. So I think I illustrated this again, but last week, but I'm going to do it again. So you hold your, you map one, hold it, hold your control, rather select it, and then you select it, hold your control key down, map the area.
Oh, Becky.
Yes, yes.
Actually, I got lost. How could you please go back and like the task?
Come again. I missed you on that.
Could you go back on how to enlarge the task in case the building goes outside your boundary?
How to enlarge, to download the small bit?
No, how to enlarge the task when the building goes beyond your mapping area.
So another thing, maybe before I illustrate that, how do you judge whether I should map a building or not, especially if it's a new border? So me, I made my color green because I have issues with colors. So the other gray, yours might be gray. Gray was not like very bright for me. So I love like bright colors so I can see things clearly. That's why it's green. So don't mind it. So if the building is, okay, most of the part of the building is in my task, for instance, this one, I would go ahead and map it. You get, so this one I can map it. But if like, how do I say, this one, I can go ahead and map it. I want one that is in the corner. So this one, for instance, I cannot map this one because most likely it has already been mapped. Maybe someone did map it well, I could cause a conflict. Or if I map it, we could map it the same time with the other mapper in the other task, and we still cause conflicts or duplicates. So why I downloaded this area here, because it was already peeping in my task, and I wanted to get like a clear overview of how it appears on the other side. That's why I decided to download a bit of it. Otherwise, you do not have to do that, just to get like a clearance. That's why I do that. So how I did it, I just came, you see we have two arrows, one going down and one going up. The upper one, you all know it's upload, and the lower one is download. So I come here and I just download it. I add it. I don't download it as a new layer. So I go ahead and download that small spot. So yeah, maybe I don't know if I've answered your question, but if you meant, like I understood the question in two ways. So how I adjust buildings, let me see. So for instance, I'm just going to escape. Someone has mapped something huge like this. I can shift control and I rotate it. Then I can resize it and just resize it like that. I get my Extrude tool, which I love so much. Then I adjust that. Yeah, Derek, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did it well.
Awesome, thank you.
Now I don't understand.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
please.
yes.
What if you just turn off, is it wrong if you just turn off the boundary view from view instead of downloading? Like going to the view and then click on, draw boundaries of the downloaded area so that you can actually get the other side.
Yeah, that is okay. It's another way of downloading, but me, I like it when I like that specific area. I don't want to download the entire boundary because I don't need it. So I just download the small spot I want to like have an overview of. I don't do it all the time. I just do it when I want some clarification. So yeah, there are several ways on how you can download it. You can use this. This is also okay. Yeah. So guys, in case you want to download your entire boundary and have an overview, you can just download it. Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing that. I'd actually never used it.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I think what he's saying, it doesn't download the data. It just takes away the boundary line.
Yeah, it just takes away the boundary line so that you can have a clear view.
I would suggest that is not advisable because what if the building that is beyond the boundary has already been mapped? If you take away the view and you don't download it, you will not get the data representing the map building.
Yeah.
So if you go ahead and map, then that would be a duplicate.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I actually like the boundary thing. That's why I made it brighter. I like to work within my space. Yeah, but let's see. I've actually never used it. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay.
It will clear the that hash boundary, and then you can see clearly and something like that.
Yes, but again, if you don't download the data, it will not show. For instance, there could be some data here, but since I've not downloaded it, let's see when I download it, you'll see existing. So I think it doesn't help me in this aspect. Let's see what happens. Okay. That's nice. There's so many things to learn. Thank you, Kingsley. I never like used it in the past. Okay. Why is it taking long? Anyways, you see, clearing it would not help me. So I want to know if there are any duplicates here or anything. I just want to have an overview. So still, but then I think if you just want to see the imagery, it can help with that. So what happens? How do I go back?
You just go back to the same place and turn it on again. Just click that same place.
Oh, nice. Thank you. I've learned a new tool. So I was still showing you guys how you can map like a dense buildings like this. Yeah. So I'm going to map this one and then I will select it, hold my control key down and just after holding once, then no need to hold the other. So this imagery is quite challenging. Just need to judge as much as you can just to map. Another thing you can do is to adjust let's see if it can help. Okay, select the imagery, come and let's try and see if this can help. Okay, adjust the color a bit and the sharpness. Let's see if it will help. No. Sharpness, no. So yeah, so that's how you map. dense building, let me adjust my sharpness to normal. I think I prefer it here. Okay, so you map one and then you map the other. Let's see, hold your control key down. I think now you can release it. Another thing I like to do, just move this away so it doesn't snap. I think they're already existing. Just you move the nodes, don't move the entire building, just move the nodes, adjust it a bit. Yeah, so you hold this again. I think this is okay. Let me see here. Yeah, that's how you map. Maybe I can also use this chance to introduce Mapathona, and I'll just show you how to map circular buildings in a bunch and how to map square buildings in a bunch. I think it can help in such scenarios. So you go to your.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me. I just noticed that before you map some objects on the map, there was no offsetting made of the imagery. In the past, I have encountered some sessions on trainings on JOSM, and they keep on emphasizing that we first offset the imagery so that the previous data inputted can be aligned. Or are you just doing this for the purpose of visual, for the purpose of teaching us how to map using JOSM? Thank you.
So I actually don't see anything to offset here. Most buildings are not mapped. That's number one. Number two is I feel like most of the roads are aligned well. It just needs like a few adjustments, like this one in case it's crossing a road. Yeah, we shall learn offsetting. So usually me as a person, I offset when like I see, for instance, if it was like, let me just select several of them. If it was like most of the buildings are like this, rather, let me say roads, there maybe I check the history and see, is it Maxa? And then I offset it, then I continue mapping. But for this case, when you map pan through, you only offset when there's need. When I pan through the roads, see the roads are okay. See, most of them are well aligned. Most of the buildings are not mapped. So we don't just do offset just for the sake of doing offset. We do offsets when it's necessary, and we shall learn offsets in our validation. Yeah. So we don't have to offset when it's not necessary. Yeah, for this case, as you can see, everything is almost well aligned. It's just adjusting stuff. Yeah.
Becky, can I say something?
Yes, come again.
I think I had an experience with offsetting this weekend. So I just wanted to try something. I offsetted the roads, and unfortunately I forgot to undo it, and then I mapped the buildings. But then after doing that, you realize all the buildings will offset when you upload it to the new offsetting that you did. So the rows will be perfectly fine, perfectly mapped based on the imagery, but then the buildings that you map, the new buildings that you map and add would also equally be offsetted. So when you go back and maybe you download the data again, you would realize that all the buildings are now offsetting to the new offset that you used. So that is one challenge with the offset when you are using it. If you want to use it, mostly offsetting, when we do it, then we might go into details with that. But then if you want to map buildings fresh and add to the data, I would say it is not advisable to offset. Just maybe shift the nodes of the roads and then get them aligned with the image.
Yeah, that's correct. And maybe another thing I can add on that, what offset does, it does not change for anyone, it just changes for you. So maybe another thing, you offset the roads, then you map using the same imagery. It should be fine. I don't know why it's offsetted the buildings. It should be fine. Only now the thing is this, when you find existing buildings and then you offset them, it doesn't mean you have moved them. You just move the imagery for you to align. I don't know how to say, to align to the imagery that you want to use, and you add. So if you download that data in Actual Sense and then someone watches it, there are some buildings which will be aligned as the way you have mapped them, and then some will be offsetted. So I don't know if you get offset. We shall ask Ralph to explain to us clearly, because he has done lots of trainings on offsets. So yeah, and I wanted to show you how to do them a persona. I'll just go ahead. I want to you go to edit. Do you have a question? Okay. And then another thing about offsets, only offset when there's a lot of data. Like for instance, let me give you an example. If I find one building here mapped and it has been offsetted like this, I will not apply a whole offset because of this one tiny building or 10 buildings. I can just move it here and align it. So usually we do offset because we do not want to damage data. So if you're moving lots of data at once, it can cause damage of other features. That's why I advise just offset it to the imagery you want, so that when you're mapping, it aligns to the buildings that you are adding. Yeah. So in case there are few buildings, you can just move them all at once and align them. No need to do an offset. So again, I want to show you them a persona just in case some of you may be already aware of it. So I'm coming to plugins and then I'm typing in the word my persona. Yes, my persona. So when you click here, okay. So make sure you tick the persona, upload it to your list, and then it will be okay. You find it here. So what my persona does, it helps you to map circular buildings in a bunch, orthogonal buildings in a bunch, L shape. For the L shape, you need practice, and I've not practiced for such a long time. I prefer using the building tools anyway. And then it can also help you pick or select residential, like land use equals residential. And then it can help you. We shall learn these other features in validation, selecting duplicates, etc. So I'm going to show you how to use the map persona to map areas that are crowded, for instance here. So you're going to click on one corner using the line tool again. Just make sure you put it at an angle. Here, you see, this is where my building starts, this is where it ends, and this is where it ends on the other corner. So, and then you have to move like in a distance, as you can see. It makes perfect angles. Then I'll do this, and then I'll come and click here and here and here. So, and then after that, I'm going to come to my map persona, and then I'll say, please help me do a bunch of orthogonals, and it will map for me perfectly. So it helps with that. As you can see, please, I advise you not to teach this to beginner mappers, because it, especially when they are still learning on how to map. So the only challenge with it is that you have to create angles and let's see, does it end here? Okay, let's see. Okay, now this is confusing. Let me get a clear space and I show you again. So I'm getting my line tool, and then I will, let me say this, click on, you just have to make sure you're doing accurate corners. Let me move it here. I'll move it here. Let's see, then I'll come to my persona again. I tell it I want to see how it does it. So it can also help in case it is a dense area. And then if you have a number of circular buildings, same, you get the line tool. I'm assuming these trees are circular buildings. They are not. Same thing, draw across, make like an angle, come here, make an across. You might have to skip some buildings like that. Let's see. Okay, here. Okay, let's see. Then you come make for me circular. It will make for you several circular buildings in a bunch. So that can also help just in case you find that tool interesting. So yeah, how to map tall buildings. Let's go to, I'm going to go to which area has tall buildings. First, let me see if I can, I think I've not done any vague work. I can just go ahead and upload my work. Right? Did I do any vague work and I've not deleted it? Let's check. Let's check. I think my work is okay. I deleted all the wrong illustrations. Awesome. I just upload, but I'm not sure, so I'll not upload. Let me just leave it at that. So yeah, I wanted to show you how we map tall buildings, and I want to go to Egypt. Let's see if I can pan around and go to Egypt. So I've gone to my actually I think I saved something to illustrate on. Let's see. Yeah, I did. It's okay, I think I did. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to, let me delete this to avoid confusion. Okay, all right, just deleting. Okay. Deleted everything. Wait, I resaved it. Oh, good Lord. Oh my good Lord. You know what I did? I have to go to Egypt.
Like you have overwritten it.
Yes. Let's just go to Egypt and we look for tall buildings. Okay, I think here, let's see if we can get some. Let's go to Egypt. So I'll just download it. So I was going to save time. Let's draw a smaller one. All right, let me put the imagery. What's this? No, I don't want you anymore. Okay, around here. Let's see. See if you can get some tall buildings. So it was refusing because I was sending in a big request. All right. Okay. How come this place looks the same? Think. Me adding an imagery. Can we get some? I don't see tall buildings here. Why is it giving me a hard time? Let's go to Europe. Let's go here, maybe. Let's go to, shall we get them here? See? So it's saying I'm downloading a lot of data at once. So oh, good Lord. You know what? Let me go to the tasking manager. Since all this is giving me a hard time. There's a project we worked on in South Africa. Who attended the OSM Africa Marathon?
I think I attended that one.
Do you remember the project number? It had lots of tall buildings, but why aren't we finding them here? Should be.
No, I don't remember the project name.
Should be here. Don't know why. Okay, hopefully here we shall find. This is a desert. Let's look like for a town. Can't download all this data. Let's see.
Oh, I have dropped the task number for South Africa.
Thank you. You are a savior. Thank you. That okay. Now let's use this one. Now check what this thing is doing.
Yeah, this is stressing us.
Okay, as it loads. So remember, when you're mapping buildings in OSM, we do not map the roofs, we map the building footprints. And since there's like a height to it, the roof is not the the building footprint of a tall building. So how do we do it? We said we map out the roof, and then we drop the roof, the building that we have mapped on the spot where the wall of the building meets the ground, and that's where the building footprint is. So as it loads, so that any questions, meanwhile I can be answering questions. Also Morocco has tall buildings. I think, let me open another one, the one that opened.
And Libya too.
Yeah, Libya. I don't know, but for a certain reason, I'm just picking spots that do not have tall buildings. Okay, let's see, let us see. Hope it loads. So as it loads, do we have any questions?
Hi, Becky. Could you please go over that Mapathona tool again, but just very slowly, because there was a bit of a lag between your computer. So you click 3 corners and then you go on to the next building. Is that how it works?
Okay, let me do that. Just delete this. Let me go back to the slides and I get a task to work on. Does this one load? So I'm going to multitask. The one that comes first is the one I'd use. Have you gotten the Mapathona tool installed?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, this internet is disgracing me right now. Okay. Let's wait. Let's give it some time. Meanwhile, I can download data from OSM. So I am downloading data from OSM. Let me download it in Uganda. But Kampala is mapped. Let's see, Alwelo may not have. Let's just illustrate from here just a bit. Let's see, it's still coming. So please keep other questions coming as we wait for this internet to act up. Correct.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Ota.
Yeah, I have a concern with adjusting the offsets. So when you're doing an adjustment, does it only adjust on the background of the task you're working on, the project, or the entire of I mean, the entire of the image?
It adjusts the image for you, the way you've downloaded for you as a person. Now, for instance,
Okay.
here, I would advise someone to do offset because you're not going to move all these buildings. Now, this is
Becky, sorry, I was thinking if you could do an illustration in terms of the offset. Maybe you could offset a task and then save it, then try to go to the next one so that we just see if at all it won't be affected.
no, like, okay. So what I'm trying to say, when I offset, let me just do an offset for you. Let's see which imagery they use, just so we know. Control H. So they used Bing imagery and I want to offset it to Maxa. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say new offset and I will go ahead and offset this data. So another thing to note, I think Rizky, if she's here, it's to note this figure of offset and you put it in your comment, so that if the person opens this, they'll find it offset, like they'll find it the way it was, the way I found it. But if I tell someone that I offsetted it to this, they'll offset it same to this same level and then they'll continue mapping. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So I've offsetted it and wait, I canceled. Let's do it again. New offset. Okay. So another thing, you just get one building that you think you can sort of say, okay. And you realize it has not grayed out. That means if it grays out, it means I can upload. It can only gray out, rather green up for uploading if I'm adding something. For instance, if I'm trying to move this. Otherwise, if you're doing offset, you're just reorganizing the imagery for yourself so that it looks good for you and you align the existing things, other than moving all these things at once. For instance, here I would definitely do an offset. I wouldn't advise someone to move all these objects. You can cause problems to the features, other features. So you see, the offset just offsets for you as a human being, as a person, as an individual rather. It doesn't affect any other person's work. It's like you're moving the imagery, you're not moving the objects. So you go ahead and map out, like I've offsetted, then I'll map out my stuff. For instance, this one, and then let me just upload and you see what happens. I'm going to delete this. I'll just say added. I need to delete this comment. Why is it like this? So I'm deleting all the other comment and I'll just say I've added buildings. I want to correct that spelling. I wasn't seeing it clearly. I've added a building, actually one. I've used Maxa imagery. I don't have any hashtags out of the project usually, so I'll just go ahead and upload. Okay, so I'm going to download the same area. You see the way it is well organized here? I'm going to download it again, but as a new layer, and you see what happens. Okay, this I think this area was already perfectly organized. Okay, the offset is still on. That's why it is like when I turn off the offset, you see the way it goes back to normal? You get it? It's just offset, just organized work for you so that you continue with the mapping other than moving objects and causing errors. But it does not cause any change in the what? In the OSM, in the world there. You get it, Angela and Water? We shall have more sessions on offset.
I totally get it. The reason why I was asking is because of if you're adjusting your your task, what about the other person? You know, if you're trying now to, if assuming someone else will create a bigger task area that is merging two tasks, for a different project, then my task I've offsetted it, but the other next adjacent to me is not offset. So how does it appear? So it means if someone else will create, let's say, a project for roads, and we have two different with different offsets, that been adjacent and they've been like wider because you're doing roads. So how, like, the entire errors that might come to the entire issue of offsets.
Yeah, I get you. Sometimes you, like, when you're working on a project, to align everything well, it's usually you share the offset. I think you guys that have worked, especially risky seems to know lots of offsets. So as you share, like, this is the offset, like the figure that I had copied. You share it with your team. They'll be offsetting to this figure. So let's all do that so that our work is the same. But otherwise, the offset just moves the imagery for you so that you can have a clear image and a clear alignment, and you add the missing buildings rather than moving the entire objects. But you only do offset when it's such a scenario. Offset like this one, you can see there are lots of objects. If I'm to move these things, I can cause lots of damage of other features. So yeah, only offset when there's need. But if it's just 1, 2, 10 buildings, you move them and align them. After all, what we are doing is updating. You're not deleting anything, and you're moving only the buildings. It's not like attached to a road or something. So yeah, I wanted to show. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off my data layer, and I have this so that I can show you how to use the map persona again. So you click on one corner. Let me use so here, click on one corner, click on the other. Okay, now understand, it won't work for me. Okay, let me put back the data layer. So I'm going to do, I'm not going to upload my work. I'm just going to move these buildings aside. Actually, let me select everything. Let me select all the buildings and I move them aside. Let me select, where is it? Okay, apply. So I'm just moving all these buildings aside. I'm not going to upload, just to illustrate. So I'm getting the line tool and I click on one corner, click on the other, make sure it's a complete like that. Then I'll move it. It has to be like an angle. Then I move this and then I'll move to the next one. Let's say this upper one, like that. So you can map several of them. I will illustrate on these 3. Then I'll come to my map persona and do the same. Make for me that, and it will make for me as you have seen. The same with circular buildings. I'll come and get the line tool. I'm assuming these are circular buildings. So I'll click on one corner like that. I make an angle, come and click like that. Hopefully, is it long enough? That's the challenge. It has to be like a good distance. Let's see. Then I'll come and say, create for me circular, and it will create for me other spots. The most important thing to do is just make sure you are clicking on the corners so that it makes the perfect square for you. Otherwise, if it doesn't, you can always use the create or the extrude tool to just adjust the corners. So that's how they use it. For the L shape, I haven't practiced enough, but there's a link. When you come to edit preferences, see my persona, there's more on this. When you click on it, there's a link and there's like a GIF. I'll share it as well in our channel. There's a GIF you can do step by step, but it's quite complex for that L-shaped and the other shape.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Just curious, is there a limit on the number of buildings that can be mapped through map persona?
You can map as many as you can. For as long as you do the angles well, you can map as many you can. There is no limit. You can do here, you come, it just depends on you and where you want to stop. You can map as many as you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can map 10, 30, 40, depending on how fast and how used you are with the map persona. So it doesn't matter. Let me just undo. And I'm deleting this layer, so don't do any mess. Okay, so hopefully, okay, so I'm going to select here, and I hope we find some tall buildings. I have looked. Okay, let's go. Let's just. Okay, let me just come here. I don't want to get challenges coming back, but I actually, it has like a way of helping you to come back to your previous thing, but I'm not sure about my internet, so I just canceled it here first. See, it's delaying me. Select another, let's see.
Becky, there's no tall buildings in that South Africa project. They're all just houses.
Come again? They're not tall.
There's no tall buildings in that area. No like huge skyscrapers.
Okay, let's see. Oh my good Lord, I did a huge mistake. Wait, this is South Africa, the recent one. There's that other one. Let's go. Let's just go back to. What have I done? Let's search. Meanwhile, let the questions come. I'm afraid of time now. Let's see. Morocco also has, because actually those tall buildings, I got them here in Egypt. Let's see.
Becky, I put a URL in the chat. That's in Beirut, and it has tall buildings that are offset.
Thank you so much, Ralph. You've saved me. I had one to illustrate on, and what happened is I overrated it and it changed. So yeah, meanwhile, let questions be coming. Let questions come. So again, when we are mapping buildings in OSM, we don't map the roof. Remember, we always map the building's footprints and building footprints for okay, let's see this area. Let's see map edits with JOSM. Okay, let me add that. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to, okay, let me move this. Okay. I want to move some buildings aside. Again, I'm going to just select them and just move them aside just for illustration, and then I'll undo. I want to move everything. Just moving them aside. Okay. All right, so as you can see, this is a tall buildings. It's a tall building rather. And remember, the building footprint is not here on the roof. So usually you can see roads like passing across it. So you just adjust the node. You don't move like the entire road. Just make sure you're holding on the existing nodes. Actually, it's most advisable. So I'm getting my building tool. I am going to map out this. And then remember Extrude Tool to just adjust for me the corners. And it's good to go. So you remember, where the building footprint is on the spot where the wall, this wall meets the corner. Sometimes it's quite dark, but this is quite clear for us. So you move it and you drop it right there. The same, this, let me use, I like clear examples. This one, the same thing. You map out the roof and then you move it to the spot where it meets the corner. It looks like bad mapping, but this is how we map tall buildings. The same thing. Actually, here you can even, actually, if they're close together, you can map them together, select them, move them all together to that spot. See, this is crossing. Probably there's a road here, just move it a bit in the corner here, just not to overlap your buildings. Then you map out this. You move, you hold the existing buildings. This, and then you move it to the spot where it meets the corner. You can just move away the road like that. So that's how you map two buildings. This is another example here. Okay, this looks okay. All right, so I'm trying to just make a like that. So I just want to move it and I put it there. That is how you map two buildings. Looks incorrect, but it's actually correct. You see here. Again, any questions? Do you have any questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah, is there any particular reason why we move it after mapping? Yes, because we mentioned that when we are mapping in OSM, we don't map roofs, we map building footprints. So what we are doing is we are putting, we want our building to be on the exact spot as it appears on the ground. So we map the roof and we put it where the building is exactly. So yeah, that is why in most cases, you know, these roofs that have like angles like this, we just put like a tri or a rectangle, or a square. For instance, you can find a building. We don't map, for instance, this one could have like a sharp angle here. We do not map it like this. Let me give you an example. Like this. So this is how the building is. On the base, like on the foundation, when they're building the building, it doesn't have like an arc. So some people map it like this to just make it like sharp like this. You see? When you map it like this, it implies you are mapping the roof, not the building footprint. So what you do, if you're mapping this building, you map it like this, regardless of the shape of the roof. The same thing, when we are mapping tall buildings, we do not map the roof, like we do not map the roof. This is not where the foundation, if I say, oh, the building footprint is. So for this case, what I do, there are two actually. I'll map them using the building tool still, escape. So I'm mapping this and I'm mapping this as well. I will just adjust it like this. So these are auto buildings. So I'm going to just select both of them. They're in the same like this, and I'll put it like this. And this is correct. So yeah, with time, at first when I was learning how to map tall buildings, I was quite confused. I'm like, how does this look correct? But after understanding that you're actually mapping the building footprint, not the roof. So I'll move this up to here. And I'm correct. I've mapped it correctly. So I'm just going to undo everything I have done. And I'll put it back, as you can see. Yeah. So yeah, any other questions on that? If not, I'm going to go back to my slides and then I try to run. It's taken quite some time. So we are going to Waterways. Yeah. Okay. So mapping waterways. So mapping waterways. When we're mapping waterways, remember we identify what a waterway is. Usually in OSM, we map them as streams, as rivers, as canals, and as ditches. So usually waterways, there's like a width of it. If you can see it and you can easily jump across it, it means it's usually we target as a stream. And then the direction of the waterway, it usually flows downstream. I'll show you on how to use the contour how to use the, is it open cycle? Yes, open cycle to identify the flow of the waterway, the rivers and all that. And then another important thing to note is we want consistency, and also we want connectivity, like a network. We do not want hanging, the way we map roads is literally the same way we map waterways. We don't want hanging waterways. Yeah, so as you can see, you've identified what a waterway is. We tag streams, rivers, canals, and ditches. So usually we tag, if you can see something that can be crossed, we tag it as a stream. We shall see in our illustration. And then the flow of the waterway of the river, it's downstream. I'll illustrate that using open cycle. And then same with roads, we do connectivity. We need to map them. And then another thing to mention about roads is most major roads have been mapped. We are going to map mainly unclassified roads, residential roads. What are residential roads? These are roads that connect houses or in settlements. And then unclassified roads, these are roads that connect separate buildings of clusters, like it connects settlements. Then residentials, these are within settlements. Now you can get the difference. And then tracks, these ones, they lead to parks, they lead to farmlands, and mainly those that I can remember of. And then the most important thing, I shared the OSM wikis. I can still share it again, or share in our chat on the different, you always have to refer to the OSM wiki to help you identify or name or tag those roads. It's not like the best, but it can really help. Again, when you're mapping, we use the line tool. You map out, then you tag. You can go to your presets, or you can go to tags and membership. I will illustrate that. Maybe another thing I wanted you to have a look at are these photos. Yeah, the photos, we have the tertiary roads. Usually that's how they look like. Remember, tertiary roads, they connect towns unclassified. They're quite smaller than tertiary roads. They connect different settlements. This is in Africa, and roads are tagged differently according to different places. So there's a wiki for Africa and other places, other continents. So that's how a residential road looks in Africa. An example of a track, that's probably in a park, a national park. And then those are paths. Paths are usually small. They are created by people. Eventually, paths develop with time. So, okay. That's in Philippines. Very beautiful roads. You can see tertiary residentials. You can see the difference between the other side and here. And then another thing I'm going to talk about is waterway crossings. So we have fords, we have bridges and culverts. So what are fords? So as you can see here, like in most areas where they're like seasonal rivers, and the waterway and the road is like on the same spot. As you can see here, there is no like a separate waterway passes through the road. And then the bridges, as you can see, the waterway is below. And again, the road is on top, and there's like a different color on it, so you can easily differentiate. And then we have what they call culverts. Culverts are like pipes or tunnels that are underneath where water passes. So I'll illustrate that again in my, no, this is like a clear. So a bridge, usually it has a different color. That's how you identify that, as you can see right here. And then for culverts, usually they're like, I don't know if I can zoom enough. Can I, like, you can see dark corners on below, can help you identify. I'll show you how to do that. And then we shall do as well object history. Okay, then yes, let's first do the roads. I'm going back to I want to go and select a number of projects. Okay, so to illustrate that, I'm just going to do like a validation, but a more like, because I want to have like a wide range of stuff. Okay. Okay, I need to stop. Okay, any questions as it loads? Okay. Awesome. So I'm starting with waterways. Remember, we tag waterways as canals. We tag them as streams. Then we also tag them like this one. I would tag this as a streams. So someone can easily jump here. That's what I assume. So I'm going to tag this as a stream. So, or another thing is just to continue. Like if you think someone is saying it is this, but me, I would tag it as a stream. So I'm going to just continue with this. This is what you're trying to say. We want connectivity. So instead of me creating another one and leaving it hanging, I'll just continue with this. I'll select it and just pan around, following it. Around like that. It doesn't have to be small dots, just go around. And then, okay. All right, so I'll go around like this. I can decide to take this direction and then go like this. Okay. So I think I'll use a chance to illustrate. And then we shall go to the OSM weekend to see how we can differentiate these. Wait. Okay. I'm going to just skip it for now, and then I'll use it to illustrate how to map folds. Let me first leave it at that. I have to make sure it's connecting to something. So if this wasn't mapped, and I would assume, let me first delete. If it was mapped like this and it's me who was mapped out, how do I tag it? I would come to tags and membership, and then I would say Waterway equals I'll say stream. Then I tag it. So how do I know, like, is it going down or is it going up? First of all, you go with the direction of the mapper that has already mapped, if it is there. So to confirm if this is correct or not, I usually, first of all, there are two ways I do that. I look out for the main river, if there's like a main huge river. Remember, rivers, streams usually flow towards the main one. So that is one indicator. Then another one, I used what they call the open recycle. It's open cycle map, sorry, not recycle. So if you do not have this, you come to your presets, imagery presets, and then you type in here open. This one will help you see contours, and contours help us to tell the direction of rivers and waterways. Yeah. So open cycle. I already have it cycle. So you get it here and then you activate it. Me, I already have it, so I won't activate it. So when I turn on my open cycle, when I turn on that imagery, where is it? Here. I will get contours. Sometimes it's challenging because the area is flat. So I'll get the contours. Just zoom in and see. So you see these figures, they'll help me know where downstream is and upstream. So this is 150, and then I'll come and see the next one or the one below. this area is flat, so it's very challenging to identify that. I don't know if I can get a better. Okay, this area is flat, so it is hard to tell like where the water flows using this open cycle map imagery. So for this case, now for instance, if it wasn't flat, and then I see 150, and then maybe up is maybe 140, I would know now it flows going up. Now using this one, I would have to change it. For instance, where is the contour? Okay, let's use this one where the contours are. For instance, if this figure here, where is it? This figure, okay. Okay, if this contour up had like had a higher number, and then the one below here had like a lower number, I would change direction of the, okay, this direction of flow would be okay. But if this side had like, let me say 200, and then up here it's 150, I would have to change the direction of the flow of river. How? By just pressing R to reverse the direction, and it would give me it would change it. So it has warned me because it's a long waterway. So you get it. Unfortunately, this is a flat area. So another way is to look out for like a main river around, and you see the direction that it is flowing, and then it flows towards it. Do I have any questions? I'll try to see if I can get a clearer example for that. This area is quite flat. Let's download, like, let me see, let me download here and I see if the contours are better. It's huge. That's the only challenge with the open cycle map imagery. Sometimes the area is flat, but that is how we see. This is 100. They usually have like figures. This is 100, 150.
Oh, Becky.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Is there any tool which can simplify that?
I only know of two. I don't know if Ralph is having another session. I don't know if he has another way, but that's how I do the flow. Usually I compare, I use the main river to know all the small rivers, they flow towards the main river. That's one. Then I use the open cycle map to help me because it shows you the contours. Now this is a good example here. So this is 150, and then up here is 100, meaning, as you can see, 100, meaning all the rivers are flowing going up. So let's see here in the neighborhoods. Now, for instance, this, let's see here if there is any example for this. I'm not sure. Okay. If there was any river around here, and it is going down, I would reverse it to go up. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. And then if there was like a main huge river here, I would show, let me see, there's a river here actually. It's a waterway, it's as if, okay. Okay, let's see the contours. The contours only work when the surface, if this is a flat surface, usually it's challenging. So this is 100. Let's see the next one. This is 100. You just follow the lines. This is 100. Yeah. This is also 100. This place is flat. Okay. So yeah, unless you have any questions, I think that can explain it for us. All right. The flat surface. So yeah, if you use that and the upper contour has like a higher one, and someone has said the river is flowing going up, you reverse it by selecting it and pressing R. When you press R, it warns you because it is quite long. Are you sure you want to do it? Yes, I'm sure. Then it goes, it reverses for you the direction of the river. Otherwise, I'm going to leave this as it is. Yeah.
Oh, Becky,
Yes, please.
does open circle work on a small area or it works only on the big areas?
On depending on the surface on any area. I just downloaded a lot of data because I want to do lots of illustrations. Yeah, it works on different areas. Even if it's just a small, let me download one area here. I'm going to download a smaller one. Download it as new, then I'll delete it. And then I turn on my open cycle. It works on anything. It's just like Bing imagery, but for it, it brings for you contours. Yeah. It works on anything. It's just a normal imagery, but it brings contours. But it works best when the place is hilly, but in a flat surface, the level is usually like the same. So yeah. Yes. So another thing I wanted us to do. Okay, it's the feedback. So you're going to open the OSM wiki and you see how you can differentiate such stuff, like how you can differentiate a river, how you can differentiate it from, usually streams are small, you can just jump on them. Rivers are quite wide and they have like river banks around. Yeah, so just to map it, you come to your tags and membership, then you tag it the way we tag any other. A river bank, same, you come and say waterway, for instance. If this was a huge river, I'm just assuming, if it was a river and it has a river bank is like water around a bit. So I'll just come, select my line tool, still map it around like that, around, and then I come, make sure it's not good for them to snap. And then I come at tags and membership and I say waterway equals river bank. Sorry. River bank, and then you tag it. And that's it. Just make sure they don't overlap. So yeah, you're going to choose the OSM wiki. I would go through it with you, but because of time, I won't. But I'm going to share all those resources, and I've also added them to the slide. So you need to differentiate those, but mainly streams are small and there are so many, you can jump on them. Yeah, streams, canals, rivers, etc. Yeah, so that's how we map them. And then another thing I want to illustrate is how to map crossings. I've seen several of them here. Remember, a bridge, usually to identify a bridge is like there's a different color on top, like you had seen, and then a bridge is on top, so you have to give it a layer. As you can see, this is like a well-defined road, but then when you come here, you see the color is quite different. So I'll tag this as a bridge. So I'm going to just delete this for illustration, and then I'll show you how you would map it. So for instance, you found this like this, and it has not been mapped and there's a bridge. So just in case you run your Valdata tool, it would bring an error on it to be like a river is crossing a road. So let's just see what happens. No, it's not bringing it. It's supposed to bring something. Okay, it would bring an error. But now, how do I map this? I've identified this as my bridge. Why? Because I feel like this is quite a different color. And I think someone else would also map it as it's quite confusing for this one. Someone could map it as a culvert because there's like a dark line here, but let's map it as a bridge for this one. So it's a whole line, so I need to create a session here. So what I do, I hold one node, hold my control key down and press P to split. It tells me, do you want to split? Yes, I do. And then I'm going to tag this. What's up? Okay, I think it's an AI thing. It's an AI road. So I've splitted it. So after splitting, I want to tag it as a bridge. So how do I do it? I'll select that portion that I've splitted and I say add. When I say add, I come and say it's a bridge, it's bridge. I don't know the name of the bridge, so I'll just say it's a bridge, yes. Remember, some bridges have names. So me, I'm just saying it's a yes. I'm sure it's a bridge. And then remember it's on top. If I leave it like this and I run my validator tool, it will bring for me an error that it is lacking a layer. I don't know why it's not doing this. I don't know what's up. Anyways, so it would bring for me like, and it has an error. So what I do, I will select it, add a bridge, a layer. So I'll say layer, since it is on top, I'm going to give it a layer of 1. So I'll say, sorry, okay. I'll say layer, you add, you just come and add, you don't modify anything. Just come select it again, say add, I say layer, it's a layer as 1. So I'll put 1 and I'll apply and it will be like that. So that's how I would map it. And then if I want to map a culvert, remember culvert is like a pipe down below. So usually in this kind of imageries, you like here, I think it's a good example of a culvert. You usually they have like dark corners. It's like a dark corner this side and a dark corner that side. So I think I am going to delete this. I'm going to delete it and I'll just combine this, select everything, make it like a long line. Combine. So imagine this is a canal, waterway equals canal. So if I'm to map it, I'm just going to map it for just illustration. Then I'll map it. I'll map it like that. All right, then I'll tag it waterway. All right. So after mapping it like that, I want to create. I'm assuming there is a culvert here. So this time, the other time I selected the road because the bridge is on the road. Remember, the bridge is on the road, and then the culvert is on the river. Like it's like the pipe that where the water passes. So I'm going to do the same. Select the node, select the other, and press P. So what P does is splits for me. So I'll select it and I'm going to tag it as waterway. Sorry, culvert, a tunnel, sorry, tunnel equals culvert. And I'll say, okay, but now this is a good thing. So you see, it is telling me it is a layer, but it doesn't have, it is having a missing layer or it is missing a value. This is what I wanted you to show. So when I realized that, remember the culvert is below. So I'm going to put a layer of -1 and the warning will go. So that is how I would map that. So remember, when you're mapping rivers, when you're mapping waterways, you have to ensure connectivity. So if I was to map this, I'll have to map it until I finish it. And I leave a small bit for the next person in the next tile, or I would map it and connect it to the next one. So I'm not going to do that because of time, but when you are mapping, make sure you don't map such small things. You have to map it throughout. You just have to map it throughout until like you finish it, yeah. And make sure it's connecting to the main one or any other one. So yeah, so that's how I would map a culvert. So I'm going to show you how to map, there's something that I mapped. I don't remember where I did it. I want to illustrate how you can map a ford. Remember the ford and the waterway, they all pass on the same road. Usually fords are on like those roads that have those areas that have like seasonal rivers, and at one time it's out, at one time it's there. So yeah, that's how fords are. So what I'm going to do is so I think I wouldn't map this as a bridge. You see, this is a very good example of a culvert. So see, usually you see dark lines here and another dark line this side, but for this side it is one. I wouldn't map this. If I was to map like a waterway through, I would map this as a culvert. I select the waterway, not the road. Select the waterway, split it, tag is a tunnel culvert, and then the layer you give it as -1, like the way I did. So I'm looking for a ford. Looking for a ford. Looking for a ford. There's one that I said I want to illustrate on. Okay. 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 I'm just going to assume now. Let me just do one more search. This one that I marked. Okay. So So I'm just going to assume this is a Ford. The good thing you've understood what it is. So I'm going to delete these ones. And imagine you've gotten something like this. It's already existing, like it's already mapped, and you think it's a Ford. You think the river, the waterway, and the road are both on the same level. That's a good thing to say. They're both on the same level. So what I would do, I would create two nodes, and then I'll select both of them, and I'll press M to merge them. So for this case, I want a point that where the river and the waterway meet. So what I'll do, I'll just come and say add. I'll say Ford, and I'll say Ford, yes. And I do not add the layer because the waterway and the river are both on the same point. So that's how we map those different things. So another thing I'm going to talk about are filters. I've realized my time is running really. So our filters. So as you can see, we have lots of things here, and if I want to map buildings, or if I want to map ways or waterways, it can quite be very like confusing. I wouldn't do neat work. So filters help us to hide features that we think we don't want to work on them, or we want to see. For instance, if I want to see on buildings, I can hide all other features and I work on buildings, and then I turn on the roads. It just helps you to work systematically and very well. So how do I add filters to my panel here? So for me, I already have them. So if you do not have filters, you come to your windows here, and then you just press on filters, or you click on Alt plus Shift plus F, and then it will come here. So for me, when I just do this, it will disappear. But then if I want to bring them back, I'll come back to my windows and I click, and I'll have filters here. So I'm just going to close these other windows for now, and I show you how filters work. We might have to go a bit. I apologize, I may take more time because I realize I have like lots of things I haven't showed you. Yeah, so I'm going to try to see how move faster. So yeah, so if I want to add a filter of buildings, I will come to this plus and I'll say buildings equals yes. Buildings equals yes. And then all building equals all. When I say all, it will select for me all buildings. All is just a star. It will select for me everything that has building, because anything that is tagged as a building, whether residential, whether house, whether what. Yeah, why isn't it selecting? Are there buildings? Yeah, maybe the star. Okay, let's do it again. So I'll say building. Not building equals star. I think there was a space. So you come here and you highlight everything, and it will leave only buildings. So you can now work on only buildings if you want to. You see, you can only work on buildings, map all the buildings, and then usually filters, you add the ones that you think are essential, and then you can add highway. equals all, or you can specify if you want to only look at unclassified roads, or if you want to look at only the major roads. So this is what filters does. And then you can also add waterway equals all. So if when you're cleaning, you can add waterway, or waterway equals stream. So waterway equals, or star is all, it's tagged for you, anything with waterway. Or you can be more specific if you want to. See, it selects. So this is what happens with the filters. And another nice thing with filters is that you can filter a specific date and you can use it for analysis. For instance, let me just check the history of this. Did I download? No, I wanted the history. No. Okay, let me just use here. I think I deleted code. Okay, so let me just use here. I'm going to check the history, Control H, the history of this object. And I'm just looking for a pen. I want to note the date. Just a minute. So I was getting myself a pen. So you can see, why doesn't it have the date? It's up, Control H. What's up? Okay. Let me just delete this. So you can also use filters to do analysis. Like you can tell, you can filter out, for instance, if I have a whole project that we are working on, I can say, I want to know how many buildings were mapped today in JOSM. So I enter in a filter or a date, yeah? And then I filter out the number of buildings like that someone has mapped in that day. And again, I can also use filters to like tell how many buildings were mapped in this project from this period of time, maybe within a month's time. I can also do that using filters. So again, you can actually, there's, I think in OSM Wiki, you can create filters. You can create your own personal filters. If you want to, there's like a procedure there, or you can try out different filters and you come up with them and you share with us. Like, yeah. So I want to just check the history of this object. Okay, so this object was created. So it starts with the month. The month of the month is 10, and then it was on the 7th. The 7th is the day, and then the year was 2022. So I'm going to filter out filter out this date, and I see if there are any other objects that were mapped on that day. So still, I'm going to come to my filters, the plus, then I say timestamp. And then when you're entering in the filter, you start with the year. The year was 2022. So I'll just say 2022, then I put a small dash. And then the next one is the month. The month was 10. And then the day was, I put another small, the day was 7. So I'll say 07. And I say apply. Apply. So I'll come down here and then I'll select them. See? So it filters for me like all the data that was worked on that specific date. So if I want to do an analysis on a project, I can still do that. I don't know why it's filtering, it's getting this land use. Okay, I think the buildings are kind of attached. So anything that's attached to it, but it's supposed to filter only the buildings. Let's see. I don't know why it's selecting this. Okay. All right, no, sorry. It has this, it filters out everything, whether waterway, whether land use, whether anything that was worked on, or even if you modify the node, it will select it. So let's see. If I check the history of this, you will find out that it was mapped, it was edited on that same date. See here. And then another thing you can do, if you now I want to check how many people worked on this, I can just let me like select everything. I'm just selecting everything, and then I'm coming to authors. Okay. So there are 2 people that worked on this. So if I'm to just click on this user, it will select only for this user, and it will unselect these others. See, it unselect the ones which are not for this user. So that's how you can play around filters, and then for analysis. And then another thing you can do with filters, if now this is the which month, so I want to know if there are any buildings that were created like within a month's time. Let's see, we are going to, let me see how we're going to do it. So still timestamp. Remember, when you're entering filters, you start with the year. So I'm going to say 2022, and then you put a small dash, but I'm going to like put 09, and then I'll put same 07, the day, and then I'll put like a stroke. And then I'll put the other time of hours that we entered, still 2022. I'll put a small dash, I'll put 10. I want within a month's time. Then I'll put in another dash, and then I'll put the day 07. Then I'll say apply. Let's see if we have any. Then I'm going to just tick in the boxes. No, wait, it's the one below. It's this last one. So these are the within a month's time. These are the like within that period of time that I've typed in, within the 9th month to the 10th month. These are the features that were added in the map. So that's how you can play around with filters. So one advice I give you for filters, make sure you add filters, the ones that you need. Like if I want to, the place is very crowded and I want to make sure my buildings are, it has lots of roads, lots of waterways, lots of land use. So I'm going to put a filter for buildings equals yes, all, because some buildings are tagged as residential. Then I'll put another, maybe if you can have a look at my filters. And then I'll put another filter for roads, all roads, highway equals all. And then I'll put another filter for natural. And then I'll put another, I sometimes do analysis on JOSM, that's why you're seeing timestamps there. So I'll put the ones for roads, highways, so that I can filter out roads, for instance, if I want to map roads. I finish my roads, then I turn on, I check my highways, then I turn on like that, like that, like that. So depending on, don't put any filters unless you're practicing. You put the essentials that you need. So yeah, any questions on the filters? Any questions on the filters? All right. So I'm going to.
Oh, Becky.
Yes, Dave.
I have pressed a filter over buildings, but when I press a filter over building, everything disappears, include roads.
How did you enter it? You realize, you see how I entered it?
No,
Sure.
I did buildings equals star.
Yeah, until now, maybe you put in a space. You see this one? There was a space here. That's why it did not. Now, for instance, if I'm to apply this, you have to just make sure you enter it well. So if I'm to apply this, everything will disappear. It's a wrong filter. So maybe you have to adjust it and make sure immediately after putting the double columns, you put the star. And then once you apply, you will see your buildings there.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure you enter it well. So you have you type in building, not buildings, building equals or the star immediately. Yeah, then you apply, then you'll be able to see. Maybe another thing, I was planning to show you this in the validation, but I can just show you here. Now imagine you have a space that, like, you've selected many buildings and they need to be squared at once just to save time. And you have like circular buildings in them. Control Z, I'm just going to put some circular buildings. Okay, there's a bug, I think. Okay, no, the timestamp was the one not, you see, when I turn on my timestamp and then I try to map something, it will like disappear. You get? The timestamp was the one affecting it, but so yes, so I have some circular buildings and I want to square these buildings all at once because I want to make sure everything is okay. So you can also play around filters. I can say I want you to download for me all buildings that are equals yes, but I want you to exclude any buildings that have lots of nodes, like let me say more than 10 nodes. I don't want, because probably they are circular buildings. So if I do that and then I apply it, it will not select the circular building. So I can be able to just square everything at once. Yeah. So also filters can help with that. Or if I'm more specific, I want it to only, if I want it, just a minute. If I wanted to only select for me the ones that have only 4 corners, I can say 4, and then I say apply. I'll come here and where is it? Yeah, it will select for me only the ones that have 4 corners and it will exclude these ones with extra corners. So that's how you can play around filters to like make your work easier. Yeah. So another thing is the conflicts. I'm going to go back to the slides. So what does a conflict mean? Have we done object history? Maybe let me do object history before we do conflict. I'm going to go back to JOSM for a moment. So why is object history very important? So it helps you to know, like sometimes you find someone is mapping, you think they're not mapping well, and they have extra information. Like if someone keeps tagging, adding like name equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that could not be. Like object history will help you to know who is that person, how many edits they have in OSM, like which decision should I make on this object? Should I delete them? Is it really local knowledge? Is it what? So when I do shift, just a minute, when I do Control H, it will bring for me the author, the person that worked on this change set. So when I click on it, I'm sure you're not seeing my browser because I shared a different one. Let me just copy it and paste it on the browser that I shared. So when you click on it, it's going to bring for you their OSM. You'll see their OSM profile, if I may say. So you'll be able to see how many edits they have mapped, when they joined OSM, and if they have any, sometimes they write like, hey, my name is this and this, I live in Guatemala, I use these tools to add information to the map, blah, 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 stuff like that. So that you will know, hey, I'm dealing with a local mapper. I don't have to tamper a lot with his work besides just doing like a normal squaring and adjusting. But if you find someone has like 2 edits and they are mapping things and adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so you can know how to deal with such, to judge how you can handle different data quality issues. So you know this one is just a fast mapper. They don't know what they are doing. So you fix them, you remove those, you delete the names and you adjust them as they're supposed to be. And again, you can have a chance to send them a direct message here. You can tag them right here and you send them a direct message in the OSM. Same thing. Yeah, so that's how important object history is. Yeah. So I'm going back to the slides again. Filters, we are done with filters. Conflict. So what is a conflict? A conflict just means that there are two versions of the same thing. Now, for instance, if there's a road, I've mapped a road and you also mapped a road. So it's like JOSM or OSM is conflicted. Like, which one should I take? Should I take your version or I take the other person's version? So once you have a conflict, you cannot upload your work. So I do not have a conflict. So to avoid conflicts, first of all, when you are mapping, there's usually this border. Mine, I like it very bright because I have eye issues. The gray was affecting, it wasn't clear for me. So I made it green here to make it brighter and easier for me. So if I'm mapping, for instance, I'm a building right here and my other colleague maps it, you get. Or if, yeah, my other colleague maps it and I map it, it can bring a conflict. Or if there was, let me see, if it's up, usually sometimes, let me see, it's up, Control R, Alt R to make it. And then maybe someone has mapped and has a node like this, and I'm not seeing it. And then I come and delete this node. Unknowingly, it will form something like this and it will bring a conflict. You get, so for instance, if this was inside, I don't know if I can get an example, I don't know. Anyway, if this was inside and then I delete it to bring a conflict, conflicts also come like that if you try to delete another person's work. Yeah, so this will be like your new version and the old version will be like this. You understand? So it will also bring a conflict. Or if they're exactly two versions of the same thing. So how do we avoid conflicts? First of all, avoid deletion. Do not delete anything that you're not sure of. If it's a building, it's at the border. If you think it's not, sometimes you can download a bit of it just for clarity. And then, yeah, avoid mapping if in the same space with your friend. Judge, am I supposed to map this building or not? If most of it is in your area, go ahead and map. If it's not in your area, leave it for your neighbor to map. So that's the rule. Another thing, when you're moving when you're mapping in the hot tasking manager and there are lots of projects, as you can see, please avoid coming to map next to this person unless it's like the last project you're working on. Don't come and map next to your neighbor here. You'll get conflicts. So me, I'll map this, you map this, we have two versions. We shall all get conflicts. Map these other ones unless it's like the last task left. That's like an exclusive, but avoid mapping next to your neighbor. Make sure you judge well what to map and what not to map. So conflicts. So I'm just going to illustrate. I'm going to use this one. So again, conflict means there are two versions of two things. How do you resolve them? You have to judge. Do I take my version or I take my neighbor's version? Or I take my neighbor's version. So again, when you see a conflict, one will have your username, maybe my version, and then the other one can, maybe for instance, one can have Derek and then the other can have Becky. And then I'll be like, do I take mine or I take Derek's version? So usually me, how I resolve conflicts, sometimes you get conflicts and you don't know how it has come about. So to avoid issues, I prefer to take the other person's version before I clarify exactly what happened. You get. So if you choose to take your version, you feel like your version is the best, so you want it, you click this arrow, the arrow this side. So if you choose to take your other, what did I do? Okay, let me go back. So if you choose to take your neighbor's version, you click the arrow this side. So again, on this will be it will be the name of the object. Maybe if it's a building, yes, building, yes. Which building do you want to take? Yeah, do you want to take your version or you want to take the other person's version? So if you prefer to take your version, you click this arrow here, and this place will be blued out. It will be blued out. See, this area here will be blued out, and once it is blued out, you can be able to apply. Once you apply, you will be able to resolve the conflicts. Another thing, conflicts are resolved one by one. You can have like several of them. Now, let me go back to the slides and I'll show you something. Let me see. This is how it comes, like to bring for you an error message like this, and you synchronize. Usually I advise you to synchronize the entire data set so that you don't have to keep on synchronizing one by one. So you synchronize everything, you get all your conflicts. If there are 10, they're your conflicts, you resolve them by clicking one by one. So where do you get the conflicts in? You get them here in the tasking manager. Rather, not tasking manager, in your JOSM here conflict. Here, actually, I could create one. Let me see if I can. Let us see if it will accept me. Let me see. Okay. I mean, let me not force a conflict, but at one time I created one. So that's how you resolve conflicts. Yeah, any questions on conflicts? Any questions? Let me see if there's some questions in the chat. And no problem. Any device, for as long as you can hear us clearly, it's okay to join using any device. So yeah, any questions on conflicts? All right, looks like there are no questions. I'm going to go back to the slides again. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a few minutes. I'm going to just rush this. So how to map land use and land cover. Still, I'm going to, let me see if I can, let me go through this together with you. Okay, that one, and then this one. Before I start demonstrating on how to map those. So, okay, natural. So you're going to use this guide to help you identify which one is a heath, which one is a moor, which one is a scrub, which one is a tree, which one is wood. So maybe one advice, the ones that I commonly map is wood. Wood is like a forested area. You find like there's so many forests at once. I'll try to illustrate that. And then scrub are like scattered trees. And what else? Grass, you can easily tell. Yeah, basically you're going to use this to guide you to identify those different naturals. And then another one I shared is land use. There are some pictures here. There's land use commercial. You can tell if this is an industrial area or something. There's also land use industrial. Commercial, like a business place. And then a residential, that one we know, we have used it like before. Land use farmland, most of us are familiar with that. So you're going to use this for guidance as you're mapping these different land use and natural covers. I'm going to illustrate to you how to map them, how to make relations with them, and then how to map line relations. What else? I just want to go through here. Yeah, how to map relation. This other one is the same as a multi-polygon. We already illustrated that at the start. So I'm going to do line relations, and also how to map different polygons. So yeah, I'm going back to my JOSM for a bit. So as you can see here, I'm going to use, you see there's farmland, and then there's farmland, like this entire area, it looks like a farmland, and then there are like settlements inside. So how do I map such if I want to? So you come and get your line tool. I'm just going to like use a small area. Oh, this is a huge area. Make sure you zoom in enough not to snap other objects like the way I had done. Same, they're not supposed to snap buildings. They can cross buildings, but do not snap buildings. So I'm just going to use this for illustration, just doing it faster. Hope I've not snapped it here. I have. Okay, or you can just draw like a huge triangle around, because this whole area looks like a farmland. You can draw, then you create like relations inside, or you relate them inside. So for instance, if I'm saying this is a farmland, which it is, so I'm going to come here and tag it. I'll say add, I'll say land use equals farmland. But you realize there are some settlements inside. So how do I create a relation with them? So the same thing, I'm going to get my line tool and I'm going to map out these inside stuff, inside land use. So tag them as land use, residential. I've snipped something here. It's not supposed to be like that. So I can adjust that. I can just select the node, press G to unglue, and then you adjust. You can even just move it a bit away. Okay, so I'm moving it away, or I can even include it. Okay, and then I want to also just map, depending on how it is. If there are many, you can map many of them. Just you can adjust and make sure it's like, okay, let me just adjust it, make it a bit. So I'm going to tag this as well as residential. And then, okay, I think I can do this other one as well here. It's a here. So I'm tagging it as well. So I'm going to select everything inside. And then I'll search Control B, just the way we make relations, and it has made for me relation. So when I select this, it says it has 4 members, and this is the outer one. This is number 2. This is number 1, and then this is number 1, number 3. Yes. So this is how I can create relations. Even if I run my validator tool, I wouldn't have an issue. So another way you can map, like for instance, yeah, this whole area is like a farmland. I can map out like I can map out a triangle. Let me just, not a triangle, a polygon. It's the right word to use. So I'm just deleting this. So as you can see, this whole area, it looks like a farmland, you see? I can map a polygon around here like this, and then I'll select everything and just press Control B to make a relation. So sometimes you find like let me see, you see there's like, let me say this is I can call it a shrub, a scrub rather. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and then like you see the border, then there's like a building here, and it's like sharing a line, and then I want to like, okay, let's use this one. Okay, maybe this is a natural equals water. Let me just map it out. I'm mapping quickly. I'm not very accurate because water. Okay. Remember, we are using the OSM wikis to guide us for starters. So I'm going to tag this as natural equals water. Natural equals water. And then there is a shrub here. I'm going to show you how to map a line. Okay, there is scrub. Am I calling it that? Okay, so there is that, but she's sharing a border. Get? And then let us assume it goes up to the side. Like this whole place is like, okay, let us assume all this forest is here. So I want to create also, and there's also a residential inside. So, okay, let me first do this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a polygon by saying Control B. And then I'll select that node there, and then I'll select this, and then I'll say B, rather P to split it. So I will select this part that I've splitted, and then I'll select this other part. And then I'll come to relations, and then I will add a new relation here, relations. Okay, I'm coming to relations and I'm adding a new relation. So I know it's a multi-polygon as a type. Yes, it's a multi-polygon, and then I'll just say add. And then another thing I know is it is a natural. I want to call it a scrub. Then I'll bring this the way I've done, but to me, these are all outer. So I'll say they are all outer, and I've mapped a relation. So even if I run my validator, this is like a line relation. Even if I run my validator tool, I'll not get any errors in relation to this. Let's just see what happens. Okay, where? Tags and membership. So I'll not get anything in error to this. So that's one way you can map it. You can map like line stuff. I'm going to do one last illustration on this. So you see, now I'm going to, let me first delete them and I make one like that. So assuming this, now there's a residential inside, this whole area is farmland. Let's say this whole area is a farmland. And here at the border, as you can see, there is a natural equals water. But inside here, we also have residential. So I'm going to tag this as, I'm tagging it as land use equals farmland. But I have some building, I have some residential inside. So I'm going to just map out this residential bit of it. There's also another one here. Okay, they don't have to snap. Okay, so I'm just going to select both of them and I tag them at once. I'll correct this error here. Shift U to unselect nodes. So I'm tagging them both as land use. Yes, land use, but I want them to be residentials. How to do this? Okay, so I'm selecting both of them. Shift U. I'm selecting both of them and I am Control B to create a multi-polygon. And then remember, but I have a natural here. So how am I going to map this? So I'm going to just come where it starts, probably here, and I map this out. I'm going to map this out and then I connect it there. The same way I did, I'm going to select that node, select this other one, press P to split. So I'll collect the splitted line and I'll collect this other one, and then I will come to add under relations, sorry. Come to relations, I say I'm adding a new relation. So I know it's a type polygon, and I know it's a natural water. I'll get these inside and I know they're all outer, and I'll press, and I've created a line polygon, as you can see. Get? This is how they create line polygons. Relatively, if you feel line polygons are giving you a hard time, let me just undo, and then I'll show you how you can avoid line polygons. Okay, so you can also just come get your line tool, but then you have to really zoom in. You zoom in really closely, and then you come and click here. Click here. This is the other way. Just make sure it's connecting to these nodes, like that, like that. If line mapping is giving you hard time, this is also a correct way of mapping. Just make sure it snaps it and you will be good to go. Yeah. Then you come, you tag it as natural water. So for me, it's just showing me that they're sharing nodes because I have a map paint style that does that, but this is okay to map like this. So yeah, any questions? Can you adjust the common boundary instead of creating a relation or splitting of? I usually avoid boundaries. I do not touch boundaries. Actually, I avoid boundaries. I don't touch boundaries because I do not know how to work on them. I have not gotten like a good training on them. I don't know if Ralph shall have a boundary training, but I don't touch boundaries. Yeah, I only work on natural and land use. Boundaries, I don't touch. If there is any error in relation to a boundary, I avoid it because I don't want to mess up the, boundaries they're very tricky features to work on. So yeah, I'll ask Ralph if we can have a special training on boundaries on someone who is good at them. But otherwise, me, I don't touch boundaries. So yeah, that's how we map relations and rather map natural covers and land cover. It becomes better with time. You just need to refer to the different wikis that we shared, and then if line relations are hard for you, you can just map them like this. Yeah, let me see if I've missed anything from the slides. Okay. I think that's it. That's it really. Maybe the work plan. Did I do roads? I think I explained roads. Still, we use the same stuff. So yeah, the work plan. If you have no questions, I'll just talk about the work plan. I added in importance of data quality recording. It was for last year. I think it would be nice if you get some time and read and just listen to those sessions. They're very great sessions. They're talking about data quality in OSM. So you spend the other rest of the hours. We are still doing mapping until we do a validation training, and that will be next week. So now that you know how to use those different additional tools, we're going to continue mapping. Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be 2022. So yeah, we're going to continue mapping. We have a roads project. Thank you, Ralph, for this. We have a roads, particularly road project here. You can practice on it. Map project. So we are working on these two projects. This one and this one. This one is mainly buildings, and this one is roads. Though I realize this one has a lot of land cover. So you can continue mapping the different land cover, land use, and land covers, but please refer to the OSM wiki. With time, you'll get used to the different features. Yeah, I think that's it, unless you have any other questions. Maybe additional resources, they are here. Unless you have any questions.
Yeah, I just want to get a clarification on something. When you were showing us on how to split, I saw a building, the building we're using to split. There is a tag on it. For example, you have a building where somebody put a node and then label it as hospital. And then where that's a node on top of the polygon. So my question is, which way is the best way to tag it? Is it by tagging the polygon, which is the building, or adding node on top of that building, which you edited?
Do you mean something like someone does?
Yes, and then tag that hospital, for example.
Okay, yeah, so that is not bad. That is not bad. We are supposed to tag the polygon, yes, but remember, some of us use like we use mobile applications, and we do not we put points. Yeah, we put points. So to clarify that, you have to find out if, like the object history, you find out, because sometimes someone says this is a hospital, and like they add let me say it's a hospital. Let me say amenity, say hospital, and then they add the name of the hospital name. Maybe it's Mulago, like that. So someone does this. Maybe someone, yes, Ralph, let me finish sharing, I'll let you talk. Maybe someone used local knowledge and they have this. So you check the object history of that. Once you conclude, like, I think this person is correct on it. So usually what I do, sometimes I leave them as they are, but sometimes what I do is I select it, I copy all the attributes, and then I paste them here. I paste them to the building. Yeah. Yes, Ralph, come again. You can go ahead and speak.
Okay, thank you, Becky. There is a reason for this. The nodes inside a building are specifics. The building itself can have 2 or 3 different items within it. So if you tag that building hospital, then the whole building is the hospital. But if you tag it a building, yes, and inside you put a hospital, if there's a chemist there, you can put the chemist as well. If there is a restaurant in there, you can put the restaurant as well. So you would have a node for restaurant, you would have a node for hospital, and you would have a node for chemist, all inside the same building. Whereas you cannot do that if you tag the building itself. So a very good reason for this is multiple use buildings for putting nodes in. So rather use a node for the specific, and the building can be tagged for the general. Back to you, Becky.
Thank you. That's great.
So in most cases, may I just leave them as they are, because sometimes you're not sure if it's a whole solid building, unless you live in that place and you can even just transfer the info sometimes, but then you just leave them as they are, because it can be like let me say a huge building, it has a hospital, it has a what, but someone moved with their mobile app and they were in the hospital and they marked it. Yeah, maybe another thing I was thinking, but sometimes people tagging this like only the node of the building as a hospital, what those are data quality issues. You can correct that by deleting. You can delete the tagged node. For instance, if someone says this is let me say building, yes, someone does something like this, these are like data quality issues, it's okay, just delete, you delete the information on it, like that, and you bring it back to be like that. Yeah. So do you have any other questions? Do you have any questions? Otherwise, I think we shall. Do you have any questions on the work plan? In case, maybe to clarify, this work plan is only for the data quality interns, in case you have people joining us from other organizations. So for the data quality interns, please follow this. We are working on these 2 projects for the course. Yeah. All right.
I had something I also use for validation, not necessarily for validation, but for there is a plugin called To-Do List.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of us have used it, but it's also nice when maybe you've run your Mapathon and you have a mix of buildings. We have those which are circular and others are squared. So if you have the to-do list, you can add all of them so that you highlight each individually without necessarily going back to run it.
Okay, so still you come to here and you put to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want it, you come here, say to do, and then you download it. It will come here. I think it should be in my Windows. Yeah, it's here to do. So once you have to do, how you use it, For instance, if I'm working, like you said, let me filter out. I have lots of things here. Close these other ones. Okay. So I'm going to select only buildings, but I like to use to do. To do is very good when you're doing field cleaning, like data cleaning from field mapping, like when you're cleaning points. Now, I'm just going to use the same illustration. This is too much data. So imagine you are, I used to do when I'm cleaning points. So imagine you are working on different water points. You're cleaning water points, checking the names, checking the districts, and all the things you do when you're doing data cleaning. So once you just highlight them and then you say add. So when I click on this, when I come and click here, wait. I'm going to delete. Okay, now just going to do another one. So when you say add, and then you can work on a point, for instance. After working on this point, you mark it as done. When I said done, it takes me to the next. When I said done, it takes me, I can work on it. I check, is the name correct? Is this correct? Like that, done. Once I'm done, I mark it. So it will take me to the next until I finish all. So I do not have to like reduce stuff. So this is how you used to do, but to do, I like it to use it when I'm doing data cleaning of field work data, like points and all that. But I think for buildings can also work. So if you want to check buildings names, or you want to check the squaring and all that, yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Ota, for that. I will stop sharing my screen. And I'm not seeing any new questions here, so I think we are all good. Yeah, thank you. There's a later session. It's going to be by Ralph. I would encourage you guys to come and attend. Ralph is most likely to train other stuff that I've not mentioned here. But still, we are going to do a recording. No worries, you can watch it later. But I encourage you to join Ralph's session. Thank you again and have a nice day. See you in the evening.
Thank you
Bye.
too. Bye.